Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends of the MCI, dear students, dear faculty, dear alumni, dear partners, it is a great pleasure for me to welcome you once again to our distinguished guest lecture series. As you may remember, our last guest was the Prime Minister, the Chancellor of the Republic of Austria. Now today we are also again having the pleasure to having a very, very prominent distinguished guest. Let me warmly welcome Monsieur Thierry Bernard, who is the Chief Executive of QIAGEN, basically a global company, but we'll hear more about that. But you are sitting now in Manchester, UK, if I'm not mistaken, right?
You're perfectly right, Andreas, and thanks a lot for your invitation and for pronouncing my name very well. It's not easy to say Thierry sometime in a foreign language, so thanks a lot. I'm in Manchester in the UK in one of our facilities today, yes, indeed, yes.
Thank you so much for taking your time and full understanding for your full schedule, which has not allowed you this time to come to Innsbruck on campus. But there is hope for the future as you are traveling a lot and are really, really very, very active in engaging in universities. So once again, thanks for being with us. Today we have been focusing on the topic of leading in times of crisis. But before we dive into this topic, I just would like to mention some technical issues. And the most important of that is that basically we have roughly an hour of time and we will go into a little keynote and then try to bring in as many questions as possible. But for doing so, I would like to encourage you in the digital audience to send me questions. And these questions can be sent to livetalk@mci.edu. I repeat, livetalk@mci.edu. The questions will show up on my screen. I once in a while have to look down to my screen, so please apologize for that and not take it as impolite. Now, Thierry, we have just heard that you are sitting in the UK in Manchester. But would you be so kind to briefly inform us a bit more about QIAGEN? You are you are a global company. And what is the topics, what is the key products, and where are your facilities, and perhaps how many, some numbers about QIAGEN?
Of course. And I think I'm quite lucky, Andreas, because if I would have made that introduction before COVID, I think that for many people it might have sounded a bit esoteric, but after COVID, I'm sure that many people will understand. So what is QIAGEN? QIAGEN is a European headquartered company originated more than 40 years ago in Germany near Düsseldorf, with some scientists, very, very bright scientists, who decided to democratize, if I can say so, molecular diagnostic. So we are a diagnostic company, both in life science and in clinical diagnostic. What do I mean by this? We do tests. And after the pandemic, everybody knows what is an antigen test, for example, or a PCR test. And the specificity of QIAGEN is that we are a molecular company, so we are doing basically PCR, or now new technologies like next generation sequencing. And everybody knows what it is now. Basically, it's a test where you try to diagnose a certain condition in a patient, whether it's an oncology challenge or an infectious diseases. In the case of COVID-19, it was obviously a virus, so an infectious disease. And we do it either for researchers or for hospitals and laboratories all over the world. We are a publicly listed company on two markets. We are listed in Europe. We are also a member of the DAX index in Germany, and we are also listed on the US stock market. It's what we call typically a mid-cap. We are not too small, we are not extremely big. It's around $2 billion revenues for 6,000 QIAGENers all over the world. And we have research and development and manufacturing operations, both in Europe, obviously, but also in North America and Asia Pacific.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And now talking about you, coming to you, now you are the chief executive, but how come you got in such a position? What would you see were the key steps in your career or the most, let's say, most important steps in your life?
Well, it resonates a bit with what I'm going to try to share with all of you today. So, because you will understand that I really believe in international development. I believe in decentralization, and I believe in constant challenges. So, international development. I'm a French citizen by origin, who is now running a German headquartered company from Boston. So when the board of QIAGEN decided to propose me to become the CEO, I accepted immediately, but I said I will not move to Germany. I will stay in Boston. Obviously, I travel to Germany once a month, and I'm with our team there, but I don't believe necessarily in companies where everything is centralized and everybody should be in the headquarters, you see. Second, you might be surprised because we are a biotech company, and I'm not a scientist by origin, but I always like challenges and trying to learn new things and discover new things. I think my career has been driven by trying to make an impact. I think people like yourself, people like the audience today, what characterizes us is that I think we can be happy with what we have been granted as opportunities. We have a job that is motivating. We have a job that is interesting. So our mission, or one of my driver at least, is to try to give back and try to impact in everything I've been trying to do. I've been doing consulting, I've been doing international trade, I've been living and working in Europe, in North America, in China, in Asia Pacific. And 20 years ago, I was called by a company saying, we would like you to join us. And I said, what are you doing? Diagnostic. And I said, I forgot about biology since I took my baccalaureate in France. And they say, well, if you are interested, you will get passionate about it and you will learn. And that's what happened. I became really fascinated by that alliance in diagnostic between engineering, chemistry and biology and bioinformatics. And then back in 2015, I was called by a company like QIAGEN. They asked me to join. I joined back then. I managed their clinical operation for some time. And then in the last quarter in 2019, the join asked me to become the CEO. The board asked me to become the CEO.
Thank you so much for also allowing insight into this very, very exciting career, and also the philosophy behind trying to create an impact and always be ready for challenges. Now, we have been selecting the topic jointly, leading in times of crisis. And if I'm not mistaken, you've prepared a little, let's say, keynote or some topics to share and to allow a discussion later on. Would you like to start?
Absolutely. And once again, thanks for the opportunity. I will try to make it short. I must say, I always say that, and then I'm so passionate that I go on and go on. But I'd like to dedicate most of the time today to a discussion, because this is where we can have really the most interesting dialogue. But first of all, ladies and gentlemen, and obviously esteemed faculties, alumni, students of MCI, and I'm very honored to spend that time with you and trying to share our experience at QIAGEN of what does leading in time of crisis mean. And you will see that in our more recent or most recent history, we had a fair share of experience in that field. I must say that when I was a student myself, I do not completely remember all the speakers who came in the different universities where I studied. But I clearly remember one story. When I was preparing that keynote today, I remember the story of that university where the speaker was a very renowned entrepreneur and also philanthropist. And he came to address the students, and as he approached the podium, he paused and he said, "Dear students, I have a very, very good and bad news today for you. First of all, I have preparing probably what is going to be the most life-changing keynote for you all. That's the good news. The bad news is that I forgot it this morning on my kitchen counter, and basically I don't remember exactly everything I wrote." And so obviously, when the audience was a bit smiling, I think he said much more seriously, "I realized that the most valuable lessons I have learned so far in life have not come from meticulously prepared speeches or textbooks, but from the unexpected twists and turns that life throws at us." And this is what I would like to basically rediscuss with you all. You are alumni or students, for most of you here today, of MCI, and obviously knowledge, planning, all this is really essential. But that doesn't really fully prepare us for the unpredictable, unscripted situation in our professional careers. It's crucial today to acknowledge the complex social, political, economic environment in which we are stepping into, and in which you are, if you are students today, you will have to step into. It's becoming a cliche, yet it's very true that we live in an increasingly interconnected and interdependent world. A world, especially for the last 4 years, with growing geopolitical tensions, climate change, economic volatilities, demographic shifts, and erosion of democracies. And these have far-reaching implications for our societies, for our economies, for our businesses, and for all of us as individuals. Just a couple of examples, Andreas. 4 years ago, just 4 years ago, who could have predicted that the world would slip into a public health crisis, COVID-19, that would disrupt our economies and impact our personal life, as it did? 3 years ago, who would have believed 3 years ago that a real war would rage again in Europe, obviously in Ukraine, driven by Russian appetite for territorial expansion? 2 years ago, who would have said in our world that inflation rates would come back to level that we had not seen in decades, and that in Western Europe, people would have to worry, for example, about heating their homes in winter times? 1 year ago, who would have envisioned that artificial intelligence would emerge seemingly out of nowhere and rapidly begin to fundamentally transform the way we work and run our businesses? So just, for example, to prove once again that we live in a world of ongoing changes and uncertainty. And if you are preparing yourself to run businesses, you need to basically get used to that and embrace it, not consider it as a challenge, but embrace it. It's fair to say that companies are used to dealing with crisis. But for many years, what was a crisis? A crisis was usually defined as a limited period of intense difficulty, troubles, of dangers, challenges that would require some actions. And now it has changed. Crisis now, it's also fair to say that crisis itself has become a stable, permanent state, making it nearly impossible for companies all over the world, and QIAGEN included, to predict accurately midterm market developments and plan accordingly. Another bunch of questions. What will the US election 2024 results mean for the US and for the rest of the world? Let's be honest, no idea. No idea. Look at the European Union. What would be the impact where if countries like, for example, high debt countries like Italy and others in Europe are pushing Europe and the European Union to basically the brink? No one knows. How should we prepare ourselves in logistics, supply chain, and obviously political behaviors if there is still an escalation of tensions and conflicts between United States and China, for example? Nobody knows. So what we are trying to do, and what we do know for a fact in our company, but I think I can share that for or with many other businessmen, is that QIAGEN managers, and not only managers, by the way, QIAGEN employees must plan and operate with a maximum level of flexibility to quickly adapt to a changing environment. And I think the same goes to all of you. We need to basically make sure that we understand that what is today the new normal is probably valid for a very limited amount of time. I have a 25 years old daughter. And when she was 15, I was really worried and concerned with to which college would she go, you see? And I was obsessed with the big names, you see, in education. And then I thought, you see, in the next 40 years, probably half of the jobs she might have to do are not even existing today. And once you understand that, obviously your perspectives are completely changing. When you understand that the population of Indian students with the highest IQ is considered to be greater, just the Indian student population with the greatest level of IQ is considered to be greater than the total number of students in the US. How are we going to deal with that? So that level, once again, of uncertainties. I am sure that at MCI, for the part of the audience today, which are students, you have been equipped with the highest level of education, laboratories environment, teachings environment, but it's not necessary, it's not enough anymore. We need to go beyond that. What is needed, in addition to your academic knowledge, is also a special mindset. And that mindset not only should enable you to navigate uncharted waters, Andreas, embrace ambiguity, adapt to changes, but also a mindset that allows you to grasp opportunity when they come and inspire others to do the same. Mm-hmm. In other words, as you begin, for some of you, your professional journey, or if you are basically developing your professional journey, I'd like to urge you to think not only about being good managers, but especially strong leaders. Strong leaders. Obviously, that sounds like a cliche, just a sentence. You see, it's easy to say, and it's much easier said than done. But, I mean, ask yourself, what separates a strong leader from a good manager? I think there are three things that we need to consider here. It's very simple. Sometimes it's very useful to simplify. First, ask yourself the following question. Do you want to count value or do you prefer to create value? Many lines managers are focusing on counting values. There are the managers that are constantly looking over the shoulders of their employees, over monitoring their progresses. This is very distracting most of the time, and this is wasting time. As an alternative, I propose you to think about managers that are creating value. Those managers, they are leading by example. They are asking their employees what they can do to support them, what they can take off their plate so that they can move forward even faster to focus on what really matters. First answer to that for me is that the difference, the strong leaders are the people that are action-based leaders and really taking care of their people. Second question, are you focusing on circles of power or circles of influence? So key questions. Managers might consider that they have subordinates or people working for them in plain English, for them. The difference with leaders is that leaders do not have people working for them. They have followers. There is a prohibited expression in managers at QIAGEN. And every time they tell me this, I immediately correct them. It's that when they are telling me, those people working for me. Nobody's working for anybody, not even for the CEO in a company. They are working with. By the way, a change of the market of today is that demand and supply of job are a bit more equilibrated. The day you are recruiting, you are receiving many candidates. They have multiple options. And you have to sell yourself as well. So while managers tend to create circles of powers, leaders are creating real circles of influence. People are coming to them not just because they report to them, but because they are seeking their advice. They are seeking their advice. And influence is at the heart of leadership. And it's the process of trying to influence people by providing purpose, direction, and motivation to accomplish clear goals and improve an organization. And by the way, this latest sentence is not even from me. I took it from the US Army Fields Manual. The third question is, what do you want in your professional life? Do you want to lead people or do you want to manage work? You see that all those three questions are very closely related, obviously. Managing means that you are controlling a group of people or a project team to accomplish what? A goal, an ambition. Managers get people to complete assignments because they have the power and will to do so. But leadership, on the other hand, means you have the ability to influence. Once again, influencing. You are motivating and enabling others to contribute in their own unique way towards organizational success. And influence and inspiration is, for me, what is separating leaders from managers. Because managers, most of the time, they just rely on power and control to get something done. And obviously, to reach those goals is that an organization, and QIAGEN is no exception to that, needs to create an environment where managers can be leaders to influence and inspire others. An environment where people are encouraged to voice their opinion and also their disagreement, An environment where they feel trusted and heard. I really believe that only this type of collaborative environment is allowing people to successfully navigate in times of uncertainties. And this is where we come to talk about crisis. And believe me, you will see that QIAGEN knows what crisis is. Let me share with you some personal experiences on leading in time of crisis, and they are coming from the last 4 years. I quickly presented in the introduction what QIAGEN is. 4 years ago, our company was in a really shaky situation. Our share price was very down. In 1 year, we had missed 2 quarters in a row. And you know that missing 2 quarters in a row for a publicly listed company, you like it or not, personally, I'm thinking that judging a company in 3 months, it's completely quite ridiculous, but that's the way it is. That's the law on the market. We had missed 2 quarters in a row. A CEO of more than 15 years had been asked to leave. And one of my first decisions was to drop a research and development project that the company had been promoting for more than 7 years before, saying that it would be the next landmark for QIAGEN. In addition to that, when the board first asked me to take on the position of CEO, it was an interim position. Once again, embrace flexibility. When you are at interim, it's quite interesting because when you are talking to your people internally, you can see in their eyes that they think, okay, should I even listen? I mean, we'll see what the next guy is going to say. This guy is not going to stay. I could have said no. I don't want to be interim, but I prefer to say at that time, again, adapting oneself immediately to the situation. I said, okay, I'll take the challenge. In addition to all those organic difficulties 4 years ago, we were approached by some strategic interesting parties for potential mergers. And merely 4 months after becoming an interim CEO, a leading competitor of QIAGEN did submit a takeover bid, wanted to acquire us. And to complete this scenario, a week after that, the WHO declared COVID-19 as a pandemic. That was the pictures. And I'm going to ask you, if you can, close your eyes. I know that you don't want to come back to the time where you had to wear a mask or stay at home, but close your eyes, and we are beginning of 2020. Everybody today is talking about the vaccines and the speed of development of vaccines, and that's very good. But remember, at that time, there was no vaccine, no treatment. The only solution we could use to try to isolate people when they were infected by COVID was to test them. But there was no test available. Nobody had test. So what was the situation, basically? Early 2020, we were in a pandemic with a very disrupted supply chain, and our own employees who were supposed to manufacture and produce tests had to be obviously protected because by no means they could be infected themselves. We were suddenly asked to supply millions of tests when not even a commercial test against COVID had been created. And this in an environment where we had an unsettled workforce because of the rumors of takeovers. Obviously, for your employees, when you don't know what the future is going to be, is it going to be still QIAGEN or acquired? I mean, imagine the moral. Yet, in this unprecedented environment, our teams all over the world, they did manage to ramp up our manufacturing capacity by 50 times, 50, in less than 4 months. This is completely unprecedented. Everybody accepted to come to work 24 hours 7. And when I say 24 hours 7, I mean it. 3 shifts a day, 24 hours 7. People in manufacturing accepted to be completely isolated from the rest of the QIAGENers. Why? Obviously, because no way we could introduce or take the risk to introduce the virus in manufacturing. Obviously, so they were completely isolated. They had to have different lunch time, for example, for lunch or dinner, because people were staying at dinner. Again, 24 hours 7 days a week, obviously. All those QIAGENers, they managed to serve more than 750 million patients, 750 million patients in 2020 and 21 alone. They managed to receive the first FDA approval for a COVID product. And why? Why did they accept all this? Why did they accept to take that also pressure on their own families? Not because Thierry told them to do so, or because my colleagues at the executive committees told them to do so, but because we empower them to do so. First of all, because we gave them a clear purpose and the direction where to go. And second, because we delegated decisions to the lowest level of the company. And when I say lowest, it's not pejorative. It's in every level of the company. The team of QIAGEN, they didn't set up to that challenge just to basically increase our revenues. They were not motivated by greed or by basically increasing sales. They stepped up to deliver because we said them, with those tests, you are making improvements in life possible. And in addition to that, we will leave no one behind. What do we mean by this? Is that serving Africa was not less important than serving Austria, Germany, or the US. They had a mission. That was the purpose. That was the purpose. And they all understood that, giving a purpose. Second, they knew that QIAGEN alone would not be able to supply all the tests needed all over the world. But they understood that they would need to do at least everything they could to make our solution as widely available as possible. And so beyond the purpose of making improvements against that pandemic possible, leaving no one behind, there was also a direction and a motivation, which was doing everything we can. Doing everything we can. And so we empowered the teams as well to take the decision they, and not necessarily the CEO or once again the executive committee, would consider fundamental to fight against that pandemic. Our supply chain, for example, they got approval to rent entire aircraft. Remember, at that time, there was very little international transportation because of the virus, obviously, if they found it was necessary. Our R&D team, research and development, was left with only one guideline. Find whatever you will consider important against that virus. In 6 months, they came with 12 new products. None of those products were even considered before the crisis. They were not even budgeted. They were not even in our pipeline. And so that culture of empowering people, of showing that the CEO or the executive committee are not the people that are the most important. What counts is bringing everybody at the same page or on the same page and basically working in the same direction. And in a culture of empowerment, you will see that very quickly everyone contributes and takes ownership. Empowerment means also, obviously, accountability, Andreas. And I really believe that QIAGEN today is a much stronger company than 4 years ago because of that fundamental cultural revolution of empowerment. We are constantly preparing our leaders to stay agile, to adapt to ambiguous and uncertain situations. And basically, we have 4 fundamental values now. One is focus. And if you want to strive against uncertainties and volatility, focus is key. What do I mean by focus? Obviously, prioritizing your expenses, prioritizing your energy, but it's also meanings that you need as manager to have the courage to take unpopular and difficult decisions. Even the ones that are not going to be really liked by the people working with you. It's just about focus. Does it make sense for the company or not? And then you will see that you streamline a lot of activities. The second is what I call creating context for success. I'm very convinced, Andreas, that organizations like pyramids, I like the new dinosaurs. They are going to die. And it's at the basically really rationale of why I didn't move to Germany. When the board asked me to become the CEO, I didn't go to Germany, not because I don't like to be in Germany. It's a very nice country. I'm going there every month. But what would I add to Germany? I have a very strong team there. Why reinforcing the centralization of the company by also having the CEO at the headquarters? I know that it's disturbing for some people, but the American market is still our main market. It's very good to have the CEO there. And I have, for example, my CFO in Germany, my chief financial officer. We need to decentralize. The executive committee in QIAGEN is not at the top of a pyramid once again, it is merely at the center of a circle. And our goal is to make sure that information is flowing at the speed of light. This is our job, not anything else. A third behavior is building and promoting collaborative networks. We want our leaders to constantly break silos between the functions. I have been working in so many companies where sales is saying marketing doesn't give us the good product. Marketing says sales is not even able to understand what we are trying to give them. And research and development is saying none of them are understanding anything. Breaking silos, sharing your knowledge with people. I'm going to give you a specific advice here. I know it's a cliche once again, but it's important. Read, and share. I know that many people consider that information is power. My thinking is information might be power, but only when and if it's shared. If it's not shared, absolutely useless. So share information not only with your immediate team members who need to know, but share it with people who should know. Last, walk the talk. You need to act as a role model. I mean, in terms of uncertainties, volatility, once again, role models are really crucial. If you are not excited, how do you want your team to be excited? Act with pride, empathy. Empathy needs to become a key value in running a business. Integrity as well. Even in time of crisis, when people may be more likely to justify illegitimate actions with the need to manage unforeseen business conditions, the end never justifies the mean. Period. No question asked. Integrity is key. And for this, Warren Buffett has a very good sentence here. I like this one a lot. He says, in looking for people to hire, look for three qualities: integrity, intelligence, and energy. If you don't have the first one, the other two will kill you. Integrity is key. So I hope that this is slightly helpful as advices, but I'd like to finish with an even more obvious advice. Not something that has been offered by another CEO or a professor in a famous business school, but rather a plan that has been developed and tested in real life for the past couple of billion years. And the plan is actually life itself. And it's offered by Mother Nature, if I can say so. You can understand that I wouldn't be speaking today to all of you as a CEO of a biotech company if I wouldn't draw your attention to the teachings of biological evolution for leading in times of uncertainties. The first one, what I called adaptunity. You say, what is it talking about? What is this word? Adaptunity. That's my favorite word, a mix between adaptation and opportunity. Adaptunity, nature is teaching us the art of constant adaptation and the search for incremental improvements, reminding us to stay always agile and flexible. Take one example, the most stupid one, but the most powerful one. Bacteria, guys. Bacteria are constantly mutating, evolving. We thought many years ago that we would kill them all with antibiotics. Yeah, they have learned to adjust to antibiotics and they are becoming more and more resistant. Adaptunity. Evolution, second, evolution operates through decentralized decision making. I hope I made my points clear on decentralization, where no single entity controls the entire system. Again, it reminds us to empower others to enable quicker responses and better solutions. The truth in a company doesn't always belong to the headquarters. The truth most of the time for me is closer to where our customers are. And last but not least, the value of collaboration and cooperation. If you look in basically just nature, many species are constantly engaging in mutually beneficial relationships. A stupid one, but a powerful one again. Just think about the bees and the flowers. Bees and flowers. They remind us that symbiotic interactions contribute and always contribute to the success of everyone involved. So, because I know that we are in a time of TikTok and Facebook and very quick information, so I learned by my team or with my team that attention span is around 20 seconds. So let me quickly repeat and conclude with the 3 key messages. Try to become strong leaders, not just good managers if you want to strive in this very volatile environment. And by the way, be convinced that that volatility is not going to decrease in the coming months or years. It's the state of our world. Build your networks, learn from others, try to influence and inspire them. And third, always be flexible. Stay agile and open to new opportunities. At a point in my career, I was asked many years ago to lead a sales organization, and I have never been naturally, I thought I would never be a good sales guy. Sales was not my thing. I was much more planning, strategic marketing. I was very reluctant to take the role, and when I embraced it, I did sweat a lot at the beginning, and then I grew to love it. And I took the challenge because I knew it was very important for my career. So I will leave you with that sentence that I think resonates very well for today. And it's a quote from former President Roosevelt, who said once, "The only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today." And I strongly believe in the power of doubts. Thanks a lot. And thanks a lot once again, Andreas, for your invitation.
Thank you so much, Thierry. That was a wonderful speech and insight into your leadership principles and what it takes to build a flexible, adaptable, adaptunity environment. But now, where did you learn all that? Was that in your family, in your childhood? Was it in education? Was it at business school, or was it on the job?
I think it's coming from different experiences. First, I think I was lucky enough from very young to live in different countries. Mm-hmm. So when you go to school in Europe, that's something that I always found fascinating. You go to school in Europe and you are 7, 8 years old, 9 years old. And at least at my time, that shows how old I am. In the classroom, there was always a map of the world, you see? That flat map of the world. And obviously, Europe was at the center of the world. And then you move to another continent and you see, oh, surprising. Where is Europe? because they are at the center of the map. So it teaches you that, okay, what I thought was relevant for everybody, e.g. what is happening in my country for many other people, what does it mean? So it forces you to always question what you know. Then also because I had teachers, mentors who always told me, when you believe that everything is under control, there is something wrong. Because nothing can always be under control. It is not possible by nature. Third, because, as I said at the end, I strongly believe in doubt. I strongly believe in the power of doubt. And I believe that doubt comes also with experience. The more experienced you are, the more knowledge, perhaps, the more doubt, because the more questions. And look, I mean, in the last, we had to deal with closing our operations in Russia. For me, it was an important decision, obviously. No way we could accept what was happening between Russia and Ukraine. Nobody is going to know what's going to happen in the Middle East in the coming days. You see, you always have to adapt anyway. So I think it's coming from there. And having also a child that is constantly challenging you is always interesting, you see. So there are multiple elements. But what I think is very... Someone told me one day, when you build your team, hire people that are much better than you on some key points. And if you are accepting this, it's changing your perspective. Do not hire yes men. Hire people that are better than you at some specific points. Tell your company the CEO doesn't know it all. It was very surprising for QIAGEN at the beginning when they were asking a question. Sometimes I had the answer, but on purpose I said, I don't know. Let's talk together. And I was pushing them because they had the answer. Let's talk together, but I don't know. And admitting we are not a perfect company. QIAGEN is not a perfect company. We'll never be a perfect company. I've never seen perfect companies. So we have challenges. We need to admit them, disclose them with no shame, and try to basically tackle them one by one.
Thank you so much, Thierry. Again, inspiring. Now, what would you say, if I may dive into your whatever personal experiences or feelings, but what would you say was the most difficult decision you ever had to make?
Before joining QIAGEN, I ran a startup. I wanted to have that experience, especially in the US, you know, with that thriving environment. And in addition to that, that startup was healthcare also, and was really developing an interesting product dedicated to emerging countries. And Andreas, I know that probably most of your audience believe, yes, QIAGEN, at the end, it's a commercial company. They need to obviously grow their revenue. I agree with you guys, but we grow our revenues to invest more in research and development, because something for me is very fundamental. Before being a business, healthcare is a right. Healthcare is a right. And access to a decent healthcare all over the world, whether you live in the US, in Austria, in Innsbruck, or in Africa, should be a right. So providing quality diagnostic to emerging countries was basically the raison d'être of that startup. And after joining that, after 6 months, I realized that we were going nowhere. Nowhere. And then without taking immediate decision and strong decision, the overall raison d'être of this company would simply disappear, because we would have to fold it. And so 2 days before Christmas, I had to ask 40 people of a company of 51 employees to leave. People who had not done anything wrong, that they had been mismanaged, and also by their board at that time, who never told them the truth. And the truth was, if we continue to go against the wall like this, this is the entire company. So I prefer to come back to a stealth mode, reinitiate our research and development project, and then start again. But asking those 40 people who were really fighting for a right cause to go was clearly a challenge for me. Mm-hmm. But I strongly believe in the power of truth. Mm-hmm. When you talk to your team, you talk to mature people, mature consumers, if I can say so. Mm-hmm. If you expect maturity in consuming people, you should expect maturity from your team. You need to tell them the truth. Hiding the truth, hiding the reality of numbers, especially of business, doesn't lead you anywhere. Anywhere. When I talk to our Betriebsrat in Germany, I tell them the truth. When things are good, yes. When things are not good, I also need to tell them because it will drive some of the decisions that we are going to be taking. And so, speaking the truth and showing people that you respect them by speaking the truth is necessary, even if it hurts. Mm-hmm.
Your leadership principles are very, very much based on mindset, on impact, on purpose, but also on on trust. Hmm? And have you ever been, deeply disappointed? Have you ever had this, now to then question yourself's trust in others?
Of course. Of course. But I strongly believe that, let's say, even if sometime you are going to be disappointed, overall, globally, it is better to trust people, even if you have been burned once or twice. Mm. Mm. What I mean by this is, if your trust is betrayed, then it's a red line that has been crossed. And in this case, I am extremely quick in taking a decision. It's out. Out. But does it mean that I won't trust the following person? No. Because I believe fundamentally that that's the essence of a good working relationship. You see, it's like I meet many people that are telling me, yes, when people are begging in the street, most of them are cheaters. Perhaps some of them are cheaters. But there are also a lot of homeless people in the street, and those are not cheaters, and they need your help. And I have been cheated. Have I been cheated when I gave sometime in the street? Probably. Does it prevent me tomorrow to give again? No.
And I mean, despite all, it would be dysfunctional if you led a company by distrust. But on the other hand, it wouldn't be joyful. I mean, getting up in the morning and then with distrust and going to bed again with distrust. I mean, then you give yourself up. Would it be the case?
Absolutely, absolutely. But that means also that you have to be trusted as well.
Sure.
Hence the wall, the talk.
Absolutely.
The wall, the talk, clearly. Again, for me, and I don't want to sound populist but anytime I'm recruiting someone, I start the recruitment interview by thanking the candidate for talking to me. Because my position is that candidate, she or he, has multiple choices. It's not her or him just trying to impress me it's also, and so this is where you start to build the trust. It's not just about you towards me, it's me towards you, you see? And it's a fundamental value for me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Now, I've been receiving, I've been marking down a number of questions for myself, but I keep getting in questions, so I try to bring in at least a few of them. And one comes from Mr. Lorenzo de Benedictis. I do not, there it says, 3K Anlagenbau in Eps in the Tyrol. Anyway, now the question goes, how would you rate for mRNA manufacturers as well as mRNA laboratories and equipment manufacturers the fact that the fact of RNase-free consumables during mRNA development and processes. I hope I got it right. Did you get it?
I'm not sure I got the question.
Let me repeat it again. Now, how would you rate for mRNA manufacturers as well as mRNA labs and equipment manufacturers the following fact that RNase-free consumables during mRNA development and processes? Does that make sense to you?
I would encourage the person to. You can give my email, no problem, or right. to because I'm not sure what's.
Me as well. I'm not sure what I put it forward correctly.
I fully understand the technology behind the question, and I'm very ready to engage in a good discussion around mRNA technologies. But I'm not sure that I see the questions here. So right. I encourage whoever did ask that. I'm sorry for not understanding the question, but shoot me an email directly, and it would be my pleasure to engage directly because. Obviously, as you can imagine, as a company, we are working and deeply engaged with mRNA companies at the moment. So
I already sent it to you, but now I'll bring in my next question in the meantime. And that comes from Mr. Christoph Griesbeck, who is the department head of our biotech department. And the first question is, how did the pandemic change the diagnostics market in the long term?
So that's a very key question. I think I wish we would have half a day to discuss that, but I think that the pandemic has created two things for diagnostic. First, it has shown everybody in the world the relevance of diagnostic in the healthcare value chain, clearly. Second, I also believe that it has proven the accuracy of molecular diagnostic in the diagnostic value chain. But it has brought also, or it has confirmed rather, Andreas, some evolution. Home testing is one of them. Mm-hmm. Home testing. Now, I mean, it would take really a full discussion to discuss the value, the pros and cons of home testing, but there is no doubt that tomorrow diagnostic will be or should be more accessible directly at home, or the collection of the sample, whether it's a nose swab or a blood sample, should be made easier for a patient. Once again, patients are consumers. They want ease of life. So home testing is one of them. Second, speed and ease of use. Mm-hmm. Especially in molecular testing, Andreas, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, the systems were huge. It would take the overall space in a lab. Now, most of the readers are the size of your laptop. Mm. The cartridges that are providing the results are the size of your cell phone. Mm. In less than 1 hour, you can screen at the same time in one samples more than 20 pathogens, be them viruses, bacteria, yeasts. This has complete revolution. We continue to discover, let's say, what I call new frontiers. Microbiome, for example. The interaction between all the bacteria in your guts and your immune system. Fantastic field of application. In oncology tomorrow, minimal residual diseases is a new field that is going to completely revolutionize the way we monitor treatment in oncology. Liquid biopsies. Nobody was talking about this 6-7 years ago. Liquid biopsies, the ability, because tumors are shedding, the ability to detect a potential oncology issue, a potential tumor, far away from the original site of the tumor, in your circulating, for example, blood. I really believe that because populations are aging, because many diseases are becoming chronic, HIV is chronic now. Many cancers are becoming, to a certain extent, chronic. We need to monitor the mutations of, if any, of your tumors. So that will call for more diagnostic technologies. And it's going to be part more and more of our lives, clearly.
Now, I would like to come back to add more towards the topic leading in times of crisis. And you have been describing, what you look at specifically when you hire people. And I have marked down some, let's say, leadership principles where I try to look at. And the one is this a person who would like to put something, to move something forward, or to move himself or herself forward in an organization? Now, is the motivation to move something, to shape something, or to move himself forward into the organization? That is one. And the other one is this a person whose principal motivation is to be something, or is the principal motivation of this person to do something? And if you do something, you will automatically be something. Yeah? But how would you say would these principles fit into your mindset and in your leadership principles?
I think especially the last. Your last sentence. I remember when I was at the London School of Economics, I was a student, and by then Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher came and gave a speech, and she said something which is very simple, but it stuck to my mind. You must be doers. You must be doers. I'm telling the people, once you have joined, or even during the recruitment process, I'm not looking that much at their diploma and curriculum and background. If they are in front of me, they have everything needed, obviously. I'm looking at the mindset, the personality, the ability to shake the environment, the organization, and doers. Drivers. This is what I'm looking. I have a key question in every recruitment process, which is sometimes taking people by surprise. I'm asking them, when is the last time, and tell me more about it, where you have been relentless? When is the last time you have been relentless? And it's a very good sometimes question to segregate candidates, clearly, because failures happen all the time, clearly. But the ability to learn from that and being ready again to try it again is what counts. So doers for me, it's the... And I mean, it starts also... there is a mindset which is key to me also, Andreas, and I hope that it's not going to sound too naive and ridiculous, but I'm trying also to tell my team, if you're coming, for example, to our Manchester facility, it's a big building that we have here, only for QIAGEN, and you are not stopping at the reception desk to speak with the people behind the reception desk, learn about them, interact with them, you are not doing your job. Because those people are our first business card. This is the face of the company for so many people that are coming and visit us. If you are not considering that they are as important as a manager in the organization, 4 stairs above them, you are wrong. You are wrong. If you are not stopping by when you are going to your office by the person who is cleaning the office, to basically say a word and interact a bit, you are not doing your job, because that person is equally also important for our company. So I think I would completely embrace what you have said. Doers, but also, again, hierarchy is not what counts. It's the personalities that are counting, clearly.
As I've looked at my watch and see the time runs out or has already run out, I may perhaps add 2 or 3 more questions, but final questions, because I know that you have other obligations. But now the one is, do you see some societal change? Yeah. Societal change with respect to the mindset. Yeah? For instance, did you see more doers 10 years or 20 years ago, or when you grew up? Or the impact, was it more important, or trust, or I mean in general, however you may interpret and put that question, but would you say there is a substantial mindset in the last couple of years or even decades?
I think more and more people are getting used to that volatility. Mm-hmm. Can you still hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, very good. I think that more and more people are getting used to that volatility. Mm-hmm. I believe much more quicker outside of Europe. This is my concern. Mm-hmm. I believe that one of the main challenges I see in Europe is that conservatism towards changes. Mm-hmm. I think we have a lot of population in Europe who have it all: healthcare, education, mm-hmm. a roof on their head. Mm-hmm. But they are very reluctant to understand that this is not the case of so many other people in the world, yet those other people are not necessarily complaining, they are fighting. Mm-hmm. I think the generation that I see, for example, in the generation of my daughter, is a generation that is obviously willing to be successful professionally, but they care as well. Mm-hmm. Caring, I mean, is something that I see. I see many people ready to basically give time outside of their professional or inside their professional time to basically meaningful other activities as a return basically to society. This perhaps call me naive, but I see it. My clear concern is that I also see the world population as my concern is that the size of the population with knowledge, education, access to knowledge and wealth is becoming smaller and smaller, and surrounded by a significant amount who do not have those accesses. And we need to do something about that. Mm-hmm. We need to do something about that. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that I'm clearly answering your question, but those are the trends. And this last one is a challenge that we need to address if we don't want to have major disruption. You need people are talking, Andreas, about climate change. That's obviously a very, very, very significant challenge, and we need to address it. QIAGEN is trying to do its share, but the demographic revolution is by far much more of a challenge than the climate change. And both are going together, obviously, but you know, Africa for years was basically 600 million people. Africa is on its way to be 2 billion people in the coming 10 years. We need to address that. We really need to address that. The demographic revolution is one of the main challenges we will have to tackle.
And one also could add democratic revolution, that many of these countries, but also within Europe, for instance, question the principles, the values, and the system of democracy, yeah? which creates concerns. Now, two final questions, if I may. The one is coming from Professor Thomas Osburg, because it fits in so well. How will you or QIAGEN use your knowledge to help solve challenges in the global south? How could you potentially create social impact there?
Well, if I understood well the question, and I said that before, healthcare is a right, and access to quality healthcare should not be guaranteed for Americans or Europeans or Japanese only. So our effort here is to develop easy to use, affordable solutions specifically developed for emerging countries. Normally, you see the typical behavior, oh, if we have sold those solutions in Europe and in the US, they should be okay for Africa. No, sometimes it's completely different. And so we have a substantial part of our activities which are dedicated to public health. We were one of the major, if not the major partner of WHO during the pandemic to provide cheap testing, quality testing to those populations. We are one of the major partners of the WHO for the fight against tuberculosis. I know that in Europe and in the US, many people are thinking that tuberculosis is a disease of the past, which is completely wrong. Every year, between 1.5 to 1.7 million people are dying from tuberculosis. And by the way, tuberculosis is back in the US. So we need to have actions in public health, and we need to have dedicated solutions for emerging countries with different, basically, product development, easier to use, more decentralized, taking into account the extreme temperature, for example, that we can find there. And it is clearly a department in the company. And this is something that I really imposed 4 years ago. And I think it's necessary to do so, yes.
And thank you so much. And my final question, now Christmas time is coming closer. And if you had Santa Claus in front of you, what would you expect from me, from MCI or universities, more generally speaking, to engage more, to do more, or to do differently? If MCI could fulfill your wish? I think
I'm deeply in favor of a much closer interaction between businesses and teaching, or what I call in a broad knowledge institution. And having more curriculum where we could benefit from having, for example, your students in a longer period in our companies, while obviously during their curriculum with MCI, having chairs or research elaborated together with businesses would help as well. That's what I would hope for.
Thank you so much. Monsieur Thierry Bernard, now in Manchester, UK, but basically near Düsseldorf in Germany with his headquarters, but living more in the United States near Boston with a chief executive of a global company called QIAGEN. Thank you so much for sharing your values, your dreams, your leadership principles, but also some concerns about the future or about the present with us. It has been a pleasure, and I will make sure that the last comment or invitation is going to be picked up and worked upon regarding collaboration. So thank you.
All the best. That would be good. Thanks a lot, Andreas. Thanks a lot to everybody. Andreas, I will leave you with 2 recommendations of readings, because I said read a lot. If you want to, I'm sure that most of your audience have read them, but one is a fundamental book to better understand adaptunity and the fantastic capacity to change. It's called Sapiens. And the second one, to understand the very potential, but also we have to embrace that added value of artificial intelligence. It's called Novacin. So one is Sapiens, and the second one would be Novacin, Novacene. Those are 2 rather enlightening readings, especially now that Christmas comes and people might have more time to dedicate to reading. Thanks a lot again for today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.